Is this the long-awaited rebound of Nios stock that we've been waiting for over the past 3 years? It's difficult to say, but we can see that the stock is up essentially 7% in the pre-market, although it doesn't have only to do with Nios stock. It also has to do with the Chinese macroeconomics, which seemingly looks to be doing better, and there are incentives from the Chinese local governments. So that could be part of the reason why all the Chinese stocks are up in the morning in the pre-market. But specifically for NIO, we can see that the stock is up almost 23% over the past 2 months, 3 months. And we are now well below, well above the depths of that we were, below $4 US, $3.5 US. Year to date, we are still 40% down. But at this rate, even if we get back to break even year to date, I would be happy, because that would mean that, there are really important signals that the market are getting. And maybe next year would be the best year for NIO in a long while now. But we can see here that according to Patrick Bateman, great follow on Twitter, there is huge news for Onvo, because the demand is so high that they actually asked their supply chain partners to increase their shifts and production capability. We can also see, according to one other Twitter follower that I follow, is very important, the Onvo number of orders in stores have increased by 8 times compared to the average. So that's insane. So order per number of store is now around 160 or more. We can also remember that last week there was discussions about the NIO webpage and the server load that was up 5 or 6 times compared to the normal times. So the demand and interest in Onvo is really insane. And there was actually some comments from the CEO that I think was really interesting. So they said that the production capacity for Onvo is 5k units in October, and it's gonna be ramped up to 10k in December, 16k in January, and in March it's gonna be 20k. Now the interesting part for me is that how much of these numbers will kind of cannibalize on NIO's own numbers. So for example, if you look at the weekly insurance registration numbers, we are right now sitting at around 13,000 registration numbers in with 1 week and 1 day left of the month. It looks like we are gonna come in at around, I don't know, let's say 21,000 cars for this month again, if they have a really strong 7 or 8,000 cars in the last week, and maybe another 1,000 in the last day of the month, because there's again 1 week and 1 day left of the month. So it looks like the first 3 weeks of the month ahead of the Onvo launch has been stable, nice deliveries, but it hasn't necessarily increased compared to the past 3 months. Now we know again that the past 3-4 months have been really strong for NIO. You can see here that May was 20k, and all through June, July and August we are essentially at 20k or plus minus 1,000. Now the hope for me was maybe to get 24,000. Then I lowered that number according to the earnings expectations to 63,500 in vehicle deliveries. We know also that they said on the earnings a couple of weeks ago that they expect to deliver 61,000 to 63,000 cars in this Q3. And in order to reach that 63 or 61,000 number, what NIO needs to do is to have a really strong last week of the month and the last day as well. So at 13,000 right now, we would need, 8,000 or even almost 10,000, let's say 9,000 to come in at the higher end of the guidance. Is that possible? I don't know, because that they mentioned in October they expect to have a capability of production for Onvo of 5,000. If there's not a whole lot of cannibalization, and if the October deliveries and production for Onvo is, let's say, 5,000, is it possible that they already have around 2,000 or 3,000 Onvo cars for delivery? Not necessarily, that they are manufacturing 2,000 or 3,000 cars already in the last 2 weeks of September, because that would mean that they are already at 6,000-7,000 monthly manufacturing and delivery capability. What it is rather, I think, is that they pre-planned before. If you remember in the last month, they had a few days that they kind of shifted production from NIO to Onvo in order to build up some kind of numbers for the Onvo launch. So is it possible that we will see those deliveries maybe, like in the high 8,000 to 9,000? It's possible actually that they do that, and in that scenario it's possible that we get the best all-time month deliveries. But even if we don't get that, even if let's say they came in the last week at 6,000, which is still strong, and then the last day of the month another 1,000, we are still at 20,000 cars. It's good, there's some sign of maybe some people, don't buy Nio and they go to Onvo because it's cheaper. Why would you, if the Onvo is good enough, maybe for a lot of people, they, avoid go buy Nio. But if that's the scenario, I still expect that, October will be a really strong month. I believe October we will go past 25,000. So that would be really good for, the rest of the year, because if we get close to 25,000, we will see a really strong, 2024, and essentially go into 2025 with around 30,000 monthly deliveries, which is, 360,000 cars per year, and most likely because, again, Nio always essentially ramps out throughout the year. So if we start the year in next year by 30,000 monthly deliveries, maybe we end the year by, I don't know, 40,000 monthly deliveries. It's possible, because Onvo then would have had more than a year of ramp up, and we would prepare for Firefly. I don't know. It's difficult to say, but I'm really happy with Nio right now. And looking at some of the more, let's say, fundamentals, and looking at the charts, I think it's some facts that are really interesting to have your eyes at. One of the important details here for me is the Nio's cost of other sales. So we can see that the cost of other sales is traditionally higher than the cost of, the other sales. So they are losing money on the other sales. The delta though is kind of decreasing. So you can see that over the past 3 quarters, they went from almost a loss of 80 million on other sales to a loss of 38 and then 29. And if you extrapolate based on the numbers that, I've assumed in terms of number of delivery, we can see that the 29.9 in red is right now in Q2 that we just had. I expect that number to decrease, and at some point in Q4 of next year, or maybe Q1 of 2026, to actually go break even on the other sales. And it's really important, because the other sales, I think, is also part of Nio Power that is not directly related to, each sold car on that given quarter, but it's also dependent on the infrastructure, I think, because of the, or you can see the swapping stations and how much are they utilized and whatnot. And I think, they are going to expand by 1,000 new stations until next year, they said. Let's see if they can do that, and I would rather see them to slow that a bit, as I mentioned previously. But if they, start to get higher utilization, where the average swap per station gets close to, I don't know, 50 by end of next year, which is close to the level of, break even that they actually said previously, because they said that 60 is roughly the break even for them, right? 60 swaps per station. And if you look at it, if by December we are at 50, so very close to 60, and according to my graphs here regarding when the other sales will go break even, I mean, it kind of makes sense to some degree in my projections. Let's see how, if it, turns true. And if we, quickly look at the revenue going forwards here, I think Q4 is interesting, because Q4, I'm going for right now at the current stage, 78,000 deliveries. Is that realistic? So let's have a look at that. So for us to have 78,000 deliveries in Q4, we need to have 26 plus 29 plus 32. How much is that? That's 87. So you can see here that these bars here that I kind of did way back, I don't know, like 6 months ago or so, are a bit more optimistic than my actual expectations for next quarter that are 78,000. But that would mean that in order to get 78,000, maybe we need, I don't know, 26 plus another 26. And then we would need maybe, let's say, if you take 78 minus 26 minus 26, that's, another 26 essentially. So is that possible to have on average 26,000 cars delivered throughout Q4? I actually think that's possible, because with the comment they gave us, if we go back here to the comment that they gave for production capability for Onvo, we can see that they are aiming for around 10K in December, right? And 5K in October. So let's say 5 October, 7.5 in November, and 10 in December. We are in around 22,500 of deliveries just from Onvo, which would mean that we only would need, I don't know, like 50,000 or so, 3,000 from Nio, which is well below 20,000 Nios per month. And on the last, you've seen this, on the last 4 months, we have been at 20,000 deliveries for only Nio. So if even if there's some degree of cannibalizations and Nio goes back to 17,000 deliveries per month, that's around 52,000 cars. Then Onvo would need to do, I don't know, let's say 26,000 cars over the up and coming 3 months, October, November, and December, in order to meet my own, expectations right now. But again, my own expectations, they could change up and down a bit. And then finally, going back to the trends, you can see here that on the 10-week trend, Tesla has been going up, although the last 2 weeks a bit slower, kind of. Still great, but let's see, because by end of this month, unless they further increase their 0% interest rate loan for Tesla's China sales, we could start to see Tesla to actually fall off here a bit, maybe go back to 10,000 or so. LiAuto steadily here again, around 11,000-12,000. Xpeng doing really strong since Xpeng Mona 3 launched, and you can see that now they are essentially around 4,000, 3,500 cars on a weekly basis, whereas before they were, in best case scenario, just below 3,000 and usually at around 2.5. So Xpeng doing great. Nio, we are just before the launch, or essentially at the launch and ramp up of Onvo. I believe that we will be at around 6,000 cars from now on very soon, maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, and then never go back 6,000 unless for the odd occasion, if there's something strange happening on a weekly basis. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. You can also see on the longer trend for the year, Tesla very up and down, it's extreme. It depends also with the number of, let's say, cars that they export from the Chinese plant. LiAuto doing really strong, they are going from, as you can see here, 4,000 to 5,000 to 6,000, and now they are at around 12,000. Nio starting the year, kind of slow at 3,000, and now they are, essentially on average very close to 5,000, at least 4,500. And also Xpeng's trends again looking upwards. And then also we know that the lithium carbonate price just continues to go down. So I'm very happy with the Chinese electric manufacturing production. The only caveat I have right now is for Nio is to the net loss, because my expectations for Q3 is a net loss, going to, I don't know, 650 million rather than the close to 700 million in the past 2 quarters, although it kind of decreased a bit. So it's moving in the right direction, but I would rather see this move in the right direction a bit faster. There are some, guys on Twitter that are asking that Nio might do another, let's say, dilution in order to raise capital in Q4. I think that's unlikely, but I wouldn't put them past them, because if Nio seems that they need to have even more money in order to ramp up production for Onvo and Firefly next year, it's possible that they do that. I think it would be a stupid move, because once we finally get back the momentum, at least wait until, I don't know, the market cap is at least 25-30 billion rather than the 10 billion now. Because if they need a 3 billion, let's say, raising cash of 3 billion, right? Now that the monetary policy is easing globally as well, in USA, in Europe, and also in China, why don't wait till you have a market cap, I don't know, at 20 at least, or 30 billion? Because then a 3 billion capital raise would be around 10% of the stock. Whereas if you do it now, you would kill the stock price again. So I just pray to the gods, please, the CEO of Nio, don't do this. Don't do it now. Wait. They have enough money right now. They have enough money, cash on hand. You can see the cash position right now, according to Q2, is at around 5.7 billion. They are in no risk of bankruptcy right now, especially with the confidence coming back, with the deliveries going up. So even if they wouldn't, let's say, come to the conclusion that they would need the money, not necessarily for going bankruptcy, but just for in order to increase the output capability of the production of the different plants faster, do it next year, in the middle of or late next year, when your cash positions are maybe down to below 3 billion. That could make sense. By the time you give the company, the stock price, if we are entering a bull market now, and if the stock price goes to 10, 15, that's much more healthy for the stock investors and the company as well. So yeah, it was a long video, but I'm very confident in Nio right now. It's been a long 3 years. It's been tough. There's been a lot of loss made on the small investor like myself as well. This is not investment advice, but I think hopefully the worst is past us. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.